Unleavened Shalom, Yisra Ya'el, Yehontanda, we with you here humbly so on Yahweh for Hebrew Christians, on what they call the 9th of April 2023. You know, this is, all of these broadcasts are serious, but this is really serious for me because it's hurtful how so-called believers of the book bastardize this time of year. All faiths and all religions disregard or misregard or unregard the sacredness, the kodeshness, if you will, of this time of year. Easter eggs and jelly beans and rabbits and all kinds of nonsense. What's those chicks called? Those mushroom marshmallow chicks and all that kind of nonsense. Peeps. Yeah. Chris always keeps a brother on point. Peeps. One of them is the hottest selling thing out there. You know. But we're going to continue on our final part 2 of the 2 parts of the Pehsakh Unleavened series. I had 3 more nights. You can follow me on Facebook for the last 3 nights of my Unleavened blurb. It's like a minute long, and we're going to do that. And then next week we're going to return to our B'milotah series. B'milotah meaning in his own words. Yahweh Shua is Moshe 2.0, and giving us the new understanding of access to his Father. Chris, go ahead and cue up number 1. Appreciate you, man.
Now, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb early, while it was still dark, and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. Then she ran and came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved.
They have taken away the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him.
Peter therefore went out and the other disciple and were going to the tomb. So they both ran together, and the other disciple outran Peter and came to the tomb first. And he, stooping down and looking in, saw the linen cloths lying there, yet he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb, and he saw the linen cloths lying there, and the handkerchief that had been around his head, not lying with the linen cloths, but folded together in a place by itself.
Wow. I start off with that because I want to drop some deep knowledge that I don't know if anyone else even really knows. You see here the mention of the linen cloths, and then Yahweh Shua specifically takes time to take the linen cloth from his face and fold it and put it at the entrance so he saw it as going separate from the clothing, that the grave clothing. And people read across that and they don't even give it a thought as to what who, where, and why. But this is Yahushua's. Remember, all the Torah points at him, and there are antitypes in the so-called Old Testament. Well, there are types in the Old Testament. And he is the antitype. He is the antitype. And what is he the antitype of this time is the law of sexual immorality. And you see this. I know my wife and I went to Israel, so-called Israel, look at this shroud of Turin. And of course, that's not the authentic thing. But he took this thing off his face and folded it up. And of course, we know he was beat to a pulp and stoned. We're going to talk about that. And totally ruddy, because he also was the ruddy heifer, the antitype of the ruddy heifer. And he was completely bloodied. Well, why did he take this and show it? So we see that indeed they examined it. We find that in the law, cue up Chris number 2, of the sexual immorality is going to give us the type of this. Go ahead.
If any man takes a wife and goes into her and detests her and charges her with shameful conduct and brings a bad name on her and says, I took this woman, and when I came to her I found she was not a virgin, then the father and mother of the young woman shall take and bring out the evidence of the young woman's virginity to the elders of the city at the gate. And the young woman's father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as wife, and he detests her. Now he has charged her with shameful conduct, saying, I found your daughter was not a virgin. And yet these are the evidences of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. Then the elders of that city shall take that man and punish him. And they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver, and give them to the father of the young woman, because he has brought a bad name on a virgin of Israel. And she shall be his wife. He cannot divorce her all his days. But if the thing is true, and evidences of virginity are not found for the young woman, then they shall bring out the young woman to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done a disgraceful thing in Israel, to play the harlot in her father's house. So you shall put away the evil from among you.
Wow, I'm hoping you're getting this. In John 24:7, this is where we get the narrative of the resurrection, the third day resurrection. And Yahweh takes the time to put this linen shroud and fold it and put it to the side so they can see it as they come in for examination, of which Peter and John both did and examined it. In Deuteronomy 22:13-21, we see the type that represents this, where the bride is falsely accused. Or actually here, she can be properly accused or falsely accused. But we see that Yahushua was put to death. So he was falsely accused, as it turns out, because he resurrected. If he was guilty, he would have stayed dead. So this is deep. This is something deep that you can only get here if you follow Yahweh for Hebrew Christians. This deep insight and knowledge you're getting, and that's why I pray that you will support, like, and share Yahweh for Hebrew Christians to get insight like this of how. And not only that, you see that she gets stoned. Here's another knowledge to drop on you about Yahushua actually was stoned. We know he was strung up. We know before that he was beaten. and bloodied, and he was whipped and all that, but he also was stoned. This man's visage was marred more than any man. What he went through physically was unheard of, was unprecedented, and hasn't been followed since. And we need to respect even just the physicality of what he went through alone. This is amazing. 24 hours after having eaten the so-called Last Supper, so also you had that going on, and all the weight, the sinful weight of us on him. This is amazing. This is amazing. We're going to talk about this story later, but let's, Chris, cue up number 3. Let's see what happens after the resurrection, immediately after the resurrection.
But Mary stood outside by the tomb, weeping. And as she wept, she stooped down and looked into the tomb. And she saw 2 angels in white sitting, one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain.
Woman, why are you weeping?
Because they have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him.
Now, when she had said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, and did not know that it was Jesus.
Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?
She, supposing him to be the gardener, said to him,
Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away.
Wow, she says something there at the end that I'm sure it went over your head. Here we go again with a third revelation I'm going to drop on you. She supposed that he was the gardener. Why would she suppose that he's the gardener? What was he doing? What was he looking like to be possibly the gardener? Yahweh Shua was offering himself up as the wave sheaf. 3 days into unleavened bread is the wave sheaf offering. This is to be done, and once again, the wave sheaf is the type. Yahweh Shua is the anti-type. So he is really dotting his I's and crossing his T's on everything. He misses nothing. He is perfect. So he must perfectly present himself as the anti-type to everything that's in what we call the so-called Old Testament, which he says the entire Torah speaks to him. So it's showing how things from the Old Testament points to him, and he is proving it. You just have to have spiritual discernment and maturation of understanding this. You got to abide in him. You got to take time to read this thing and not read it through as if you already know the narrative, because 99% of you don't. The thing about Yahweh Shua, we know that he is the Pehsakh. Pehsakh is not a day, it is him. So he is the Passover. And likewise, 3 days after the resurrection, he shows that he is the wave sheaf. He is the wave sheaf offering. It is not a day, it is him. He is the wave sheaf offering of first fruits. He is the first fruits of the resurrection of the dead to eternal life. Now, you want to get some backdrop on that, Leviticus 23, 10 and 11. You can look at Deuteronomy 26, 1 through 11 for more detail. He is the first of the first fruits of resurrection from the dead to eternal life. This is important. This is deep. Now, remember in Matthew 21, 1 through 11, 10 days before the execution of Yahweh Shua HaMashiach, we all up in his face, paving the way with the palm leaves and putting it on as he goes in the donkey going in towards the temple. He is just praised and raised. This is Dawid, the king of Israel. They wanted to make him king right there. Of course, he rejected that because he knows that you're not going to box him and tell him how he's going to do this thing. You're not going to tell him how the script is supposed to be written. The script was not to be written as the way we wanted it. We would have made him king right then and there. We inspected him. We saw that he had 3 years of ministry. He had a great resume, healing the sick, raising the dead, eyes to the blind. He did all kinds of good stuff. That's our man let's kick some Roman butt. That's not the script that he was going by. He only did what his father told him to do, and that was he had to die. So here he is. He went from the top of the mountain in our eyes, praising him and raising him, and then 10 days later he was strung up. Now, like I said, he is the Pehsakh. That word is Hebrew word 6453, and it's specific to Yahweh Shua. It is not a day. He was slain before the foundation of the world. That's Greek word 4969. It means to violently maim. He was violently maimed. And then we got Hebrew word 6452, which the uses. This is another thing I want to drop on you now. Yahweh Shua had that brother bop. You wonder where you got that little style to your walk, that melon walk we got. Yahweh Shua indeed walked with a limp. Same kind of limp he gave to Yaakov a couple thousand years before, when they had that wrestling match. Yahweh Shua indeed had a gimp to him. I call it a brother bop. That's a righteous bop. That is him. What is the type for the inspection day? Go to Genesis 12:3, when they brought the lamb or the goat into the home, and he was slain later, but the family had to get acquainted with the sheep or the goat, and they gave him a name and everything. They didn't have to slay him. Yahweh Shua is the antitype to that. We got to know him, we got familiar with him, fell in love with him, but then we end up slaying him. Not only that, we ended up taking a hand in that and stoning him. All of the people are guilty. All of the people. Now, you say, Yehonathan, where are you getting that from about him being stoned? Again, the narrative you get in Sunday school, Bible school, Hebrew school, whatever, in your language of slavery is designed to give you a false image in your head. It's all about imaging. Him carrying a cross. If he carried a cross, that would deny him as being the Messiah. Or the ruddy heifer. Remember, ruddy heifer was not allowed to carry anything. So we know he didn't carry no cross. He didn't die on the cross anyway. But at any rate, he didn't carry it. I can go on and on. I've been doing this on the radio for what, 6 years or whatever. Of all the images that are in our head about this, what they call the passion story. I am extremely passionate about it, and like I said, it hurts that we got to juxtapose this with Easter, Estar Day. But this man, if you look at John 18:31, he was judged by two different governments, the Roman government and the Hebrew government. Now, if you go to a man named Titus Kennedy, he has an article called Roman Capital Punishment. And the history of the Roman capital offenses, the capital offenses among them was treason, murder, robbery. And one of the ways of being punished with this was crucifixion. So it is well known that the Romans crucified people. So we see that he got the crucifixion. But if you go to John 18:31, we were told to go ahead and punish him according to our own law. And our own law, Yahweh Shua was accused multiple times of blasphemy. Leviticus 24:16 says that the law, the judgment for blasphemy is stoning. Well, we see that he was also punished according to our law. That means he was being stoned also. In John 19:7, see that he was accused of blasphemy. I think Mark 14:64. And we know he was hung on a tree. Deuteronomy 21:23 says, if any man does a crime punishable for death, then you hang him on a tree. Galatians 3:13 says, curses any man who's hung on a tree. So we got a man here who was marked more than any man ever in the history of mankind, receiving execution by crucifixion and stoning. So here's the ironic thing of this. Picture this. The tree is right on the road, on the left side of the road as you go into the Holy. Now, it may be difficult for you to picture. Now, like I said, I've been to the Holy Land, if you will. You go down the road, on to the left as you go to the city of Dawid, is the almond tree on the Mount of Olives. Then there's a bridge leading to the city, because underneath are the catacombs. You don't want to defile yourself going into to appointed times. So the tree is to the left. To the right is the ruddy heifer altar. The ruddy heifer altar is to the right. This is amazing. So Yahweh Shua, this is where he, during the time of his ministry, he slept at the almond tree, knowing that he was going to die on that tree. So he's on that tree, and remember, above his head was affixed, "This is the king of the Yahudim." It was in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. And he was up there for blasphemy. So you got people coming down to keep Passover, to keep Pehsakh, with their lambs on their shoulders. Walking by this tree, they look up there and see the accusation. They pick up stones along the way and throw and cast them on them and stone them as they go down. Put the lamb back on their head, on their shoulders, and go down to keep Passover. Can you put that in your mind? They stoned the Passover sacrifice for them as they went down into the temple to keep the Passover. And you're going to see why I take this very seriously. When you're out there with your bunny rabbits and Easter baskets and jelly beans, all that nonsense, and your peeps, on a time like this, for a man that we are all guilty of, who was indeed innocent, like the linen cloth said, that he indeed was a virgin. He did no wrong in his father's house. This whole world is his house. So that means on this world he did nothing wrong. He was innocent. Chris, can you cue up number 5, please? Appreciate you.
Now thanks be to God, who always leads us in triumph in Christ, and through us diffuses the fragrance of his knowledge in every place. For we are to God the fragrance of Christ, among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. To the one we are the aroma of death, leading to death, and to the other the aroma of life, leading to life. And who is sufficient for these things? For we are not, as so many, peddling the word of God.
So that wasn't number 5.
Number 5. I apologize.
Yeah.
Out of order. Let me try this one. Yep.
Luke 22.
Yep, I got you.
Okay,
My bad.
thanks.
Yep.
Out of his mouth. Is this not Joseph's son?
You will surely say this proverb to me, "Physician, heal yourself. Whatever we have heard done in Capernaum, do also here in your country. Assuredly, I say to you, no prophet is accepted in his own country. But I tell you truly, many widows were in Israel in the days of Elijah, when the heaven was shut up 3 years and 6 months, and there was a great famine throughout all the land.
Okay.
But to none of them was Elijah sent, except to Zarephath."
Okay, so what we got here, actually that wasn't exactly, but I still like that because they said in there supports what I just said. So that probably was meant to be in there, supports what I just said about Yahweh Shua having a limp. You see how they said, "Physician, heal yourself." You out there healing people, you need to heal yourself. Look at you. First of all, I told you he was albino. He had and he was twisted to the right a little bit, and he limped. They said, "Why don't you heal yourself?" So that's not what I want, but I'm going to read it in Luke 22:14-20. This is when he institutes a new world order. So this is at what they call the Last Supper. He says, "With fervent desire, I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. Because I say to you, I will no longer eat of it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of Yahweh." Then he took the cup and gave toda to it and said, "Take this and divide it among yourselves, because I say to you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of Yahweh comes." And he took the bread and gave thanks and broke it and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, which is given to you. Do this in remembrance of me." Likewise, he also took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant of my blood, which is shed for you. And look, the hand of my betrayer is with me and on the table. And truly the Son of Man goes as it has been determined. But woe to that man by whom he is betrayed." This is deeper than what you realize. It's a new world order. We see here this meal it's nothing symboling a Passover, Passover meal. This is the day before Passover. In Passover, you have a lamb and you have unleavened bread. In this meal, you have leavened bread, because the Greek word in there is artos. So that's lechem. That's leavened bread. And you have wine. There's no wine mentioned in the Passover meal. So, and there's nothing in here mentioned about them eating any kind of meat. There's no lamb or goat in this meal. There's bread and wine. Leavened bread and wine. The wine is his blood. This is a whole new world order he's showing us here. Number 6 is going to be John 13. Do you think you have it? So this is a whole new world order that he is unleashing on us. A whole new understanding of everything. Go ahead and cue number 6.
Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come, that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And supper being ended, the devil having already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper and laid aside his garments, took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. And then he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him,
Lord, are you washing my feet? What I am doing, you do not understand now, but you will know after this.
You shall never wash my feet.
If I do not wash you, you have no part with me.
Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head.
He who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not all of you.
for he knew.
Wow. Once again, here he is doing brand new stuff. And I don't think we're understanding it, because I don't know if you really love this man enough to sit down and read this book. Here he is saying this is a new thing. They're all like, what is this brother doing? He's teaching us humility. Here he is, the man who created feet, washing feet. Can you believe that? He's the one that created feet, and he's down on his hands and knees and washing these dusty, crusty feet. No corn cob nails and everything they got on it. And they're like, what is this brother doing? And then here's something that's deep that he said. When Peter said, no, don't, we'll wash, once he got the message that, hey, I love you, I want to be a part of you, and if that means you got to wash my feet, hey, wash everything. Yahushua says, no, you are already clean. Now, why is that deep? Because in this new world order, this new understanding of access to Yahweh, in this new covenant, talking about the leavened bread, he says we're going to coming up soon in the next few scriptures here about us already being unleavened. Shaul says you're already unleavened. We haven't got to that. Here, Yahushua says you're already clean. What each of them are saying is, if you accept me, you're already unleavened, you're already clean. What is remaining is the practice. Now, what do we do? The feet represents where you came from. Your walk is your work. What is your walk in life? What is your work in life? What are you doing? As we go out and do, then that speaks to that, where you came from. So what's supposed to happen is, during this time, you're supposed to come in, everybody, no one walks around in the house with their shoes on, their sandals on. You wear sandals, you don't have your feet covered up. That's why you have to wash the feet. If you're humble enough, the shoes get lined up in the door, at the doorway, in order of importance, oldest to the youngest. And the master of the home or his servant will probably then wash everyone's feet who comes to the house, because everyone's feet is dusty, because everybody wore sandals. Nobody had no high top Jordans on. But here he is teaching us humility, and you wash the feet with what? Blood? No, water. We're gone from a blood covenant to a water covenant. You get baptized In blood? No. Water. This is a whole new reality. This matrix this is taking you out of the matrix. So we'll wash. This is a new wash clean covenant that we have here. And this is something he's teaching them, and he said you don't understand this, but you will. Here we are, over 2,000 years later. This is the 9th of April 2023 of the year of their Lord, and Hebrews and Shebrews still are not getting it. Go ahead and cue up number 7, brother. It's still the same.
Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and glorify him immediately. Little children, I shall be with you a little while longer. You will seek me, and as I said to the Jews, where I am going, you cannot come. So now I say to you, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this, all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another.
Simon Peter.
Wow. This is like the Bimilotah in his own words. Out of his own mouth, he said, this is the commandment I give to you. This is the new understanding of the commandments, is that you have love for one another. As a matter of fact, he said, the identifying mark that you are my disciple, here's the identifying mark. This is what the brother said. If you have love for one another, that is what's going to identify you as my disciple. That's not Yohanan Dawi if you is saying that. He said that. He didn't say, if they take your pecker out and it's circumcised, that's going to prove you belong to me. He didn't say that. He didn't say if you had the nice big old Hebrew beard, that's going to prove you belong to me. He didn't say if you keeping Shabbat, that's going to prove it. He didn't say if you eating kosher, if you wearing seats. He said if you have love to one another, they're going to know you're my disciple. As a matter of fact, you notice how he called them little children. Yahushua says, unless you become like a child, you cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. Does that mean he said be silly and immature? No. That means keep it simple. Saints, keep it simple. See, children believe what they're told. But now you should be off of milk. You should understand that you've been told wrong. Yahushua is telling us this is a new covenant. A child will say, hey, this is a new covenant. But it's those out there with the doctorate degrees and master degrees and PhDs and all kinds of whatever degrees that are blinding them. The more knowledge and more education they get, the stupider we get. They go out there and do all this and they think they know better than the man does. Who is the Torah? He is the one that said, humble yourself. All right? Get into your little lane. Humble yourself. Be as a child and come to me. Keep it simple, saints. This is a whole new thing. The 666 commandments you got from Moshe is summed up in 2. Love Yahweh with all your heart, might, and soul. Love your neighbor as yourself. Remember, but again, I keep going to Matthew 24 with the sheep and the goats. There was a one litmus test, one thing that separated one from the other. Because all of them were keeping the Torah. One was keeping it externally, and they went to the left, damned to hell. Yahushua said that out of his mouth. The sheep on the right was keeping it in their hearts. That's why they were shocked that he even mentioned the things that they did. They said, when did we see you in the hospital and we visited you? We ain't see you in no hospital. He said, yeah, you did. When you visited that old woman who was a neighbor of yours down the street, that was me. When you cut that old man up the street's grass, his yard, because he's too old and he couldn't do it anymore. That was me. Every week, every month you cut his grass. That was my grass you was cutting. When you took that brother across town for a job interview, that was me. You took me across town. When you visited your nephew in prison, that was me. But see, they did those things out of sincerity of their heart. And Yahshua mentioned that as the reason why they were put onto the right. Not of them wearing seats. All of you new brews out there, all of you she brews who think you're getting into the kingdom by digging up Moses with laws and commandments that you got in the desert. They did not even come from Sinai. Yet when Yahshua, who is on the Mount of Olives, speaks out of his own mouth how your attitudes are to be, go back and again. I just did that lesson a few months ago, or read it yourself in Matthew 5, 1 through 12, or how your attitudes are to be. He said out of his own mouth, and not once did he mention about keeping 600 plus commandments. But when you get all this knowledge you think you have, you get stupid. He said you're going to know, they're going to know who you belong to, whose child you are, when they see how you treat one another. All right, my man. See if you can get queued up. What are we on, number 8? Okay, good. Cue that up. Thanks, I appreciate it.
For I received from the Lord that which I also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "Take, eat. This is my body, which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same manner, he also took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. This do as often as you drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death till he comes."
So, that is Shaul on his broadcast saying the same thing I just got finished saying. He's quoting what Yahshua said at what they call the Last Supper. Why? If you read the entire narrative, he's talking about how our conduct ought to be. And I just got finished saying about the Beatitudes, how our attitudes ought to be. Here Shaul is talking about how our conduct ought to be, and he's using the Feast of Unleavened Bread as the example. What he's saying is we're conducting ourselves like we're leavened. But like Yahshua said when he was washing the feet that you're already clean, Shaul says you're already unleavened. So you're not, he is doing in his broadcast what I'm trying to do in this broadcast. And he is saying get out of the physical blood and stone written down laws and rules of this feast day, of how you're supposed to keep it, and keep it spiritually. He is saying that take out the leaven of malice and envy. And this is what we're doing. You know unleavened bread is coming up. So you still got a whole bunch of leaven in your cabinets and your refrigerators, all over the place. Upstairs because you're eating snacks, watching game in your bedroom, and you're finding stuff all in your car. And we just get a whole week, even more, stuffing ourselves with all the stuff that we got to throw out and get rid of. By the time unleavened bread come around, your colon, how many feet in the colon? I know you probably know something like that. It was like 60 feet. I know it's a lot of feet. Colon long, right? So you get all the leaven out of the house, but it ain't all out of the house. You got 60-something feet of leaven up in your gut. And it's going to be there for the next 7, by the time it takes probably 7 days to get all that crap out of you. Yeah, you think you keep an unleavened bread. If you want to get all the leaven out of the house, what's going to happen is you got to get out of the house. Then it'll all be out of the house. Sleep outside for a week. But see, the problem is we're not spiritually keeping this thing. We're not spiritually keeping this thing. So go ahead and continue with number 9 to finish. Go ahead. Number 9.
Therefore, whoever eats this bread or drinks this cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of the bread and drink of the cup. For he who eats and drinks in an unworthy manner eats and drinks judgment to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. For this reason many are weak and sick among you, and many sleep. For if we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. But when we are judged, we are chastened by the Lord, that we may not be condemned with the world. Therefore, my brethren, when you come together to eat, wait for one another. But if anyone is hungry, let him eat at home.
Wow. See? Self-examination. What we do when we wake up, we immediately get on social media and blast the Jew. Blast the white man. Laugh at people who doing stuff that you used to do and they still doing it. You get on people for eating pork chops and blast people for how they keep the Sabbath and all this kind of stuff. First thing we do is point fingers because we just woke up. New brews. Out there automatic. Now you want to get another wife all of a sudden. They had more than one wife. Don't know jack. Did you blow the shofar at the new moon? That's one of the commandments. Are you wearing mixed clothing? Are you sequestering your wife when she's on her period? Are you keeping your daughter from school during her period? I mean, I can go on and on and on about the things that you're not doing. If you want to go ahead and keep these commandments, then you must live by them. And if you did live by them, you only get long life. There is nowhere in all your knowledge and self-righteous understanding do you get eternal life keeping the laws of Moshe. No matter how many laws you want to say there were. You ain't getting eternal life with them. You get eternal life by your examining yourself and discerning the master's body. Shaul says you're not discerning his body. You're too busy talking about the physical symbols of unleavened bread, and you're judging one another and backbiting one another, and you're having malice towards one another and not keeping the spiritual understanding of this time. And it is to have an unleavened way of your relationship with the Most High. And what they're doing, what is your brothers doing right now? Out there on Easter, leavening a Kodesh time with idolatry. The whole thing about leaven is not mixing. Yahweh, Shaul said right here, if you have been baptized in the name of Yahweh Shua HaMashiach, you are unleavened because you are partaking of him. Remember in the so-called Last Supper, Yahweh Shua, who is unleavened, was breaking leavened bread. So they were eating leavened bread, but if they received him who is unleavened, see the deepness there? They are unleavened. The souls, the people are unleavened. Now they might have eaten leavened bread, but they are unleavened. The first miracle Yahweh Shua ever did in his ministry was at a wedding. Remember the wedding at Cana? It was the second day of this lesson I'm doing on B'Melotah. Or second or third. And he turned the water into wine. You're going to see at the end, when he gets stabbed in his side, out from his side comes Dom Wa Ma'im. Blood and water. It's all about him. It's all about him. While you up there with a gut full of leaven, self-righteous, on social media blasting other people because they got the day wrong. They ain't celebrating the same time you're celebrating it. And you're blasting them. And your eyeballs ain't laid nothing on Abib. You in Baltimore somewhere talking about keeping the proper days. Where in this book where it says you use the calendar, your enemy's calendar, number one, and in a foreign land you're going to mark the time? You do the best you can and don't judge your brother on what day he's keeping it. Now, I'm not saying be out of pocket. You got brothers who keep it in the wintertime. Then that's just sinful. And you're not discerning the master's body. You have a heavenly witness and an earthly witness. Let's not get that's they need to be chastised for that. You're not going to keep Passover in the middle of summer. Of all the Kodesh appointed times there are, and there are 8 of them, counting the Shabbat, the one that we really need to be the most accurate on is Pehsakh, because all the other 6 get counted from Pehsakh. So you got to get that one correct. Nevertheless, we are only rehearsing. Practice. Like Allen Iverson said, practice. Practice? Practice. He didn't say malice, judgment, finger pointing. You got a big old plank in your eye and you looking at the little speck in somebody else's eye. You got a big plank in yours. All right, bro. Cue up number 10.
Do you not know that a little leaven leavens the whole lump? Therefore purge out the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, since you truly are unleavened. For indeed Christ, our Passover, was sacrificed for us. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, nor with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth.
That's what I guess I finished saying. That's what the brother said. He took it from a physical level and made it deep. Put it into the spiritual level, which is the same thing Yahweh Shua was doing all along. He did it at the so-called Last Supper with the feet washing and with the bread and wine. There's no bread and wine in Exodus. And when we were coming out of Misraim. There's no bread and wine involved at all. There's unleavened bread and goat, or unleavened bread and sheep. They drank water. They weren't drinking wine. This is a whole new thing. This is a whole new approach. This goes from a physical understanding of being unleavened to a spiritual one. If you're out there with eating jelly beans and peeps, and out there with your brand new dress, haven't been to church all year. Now all of a sudden today, church is packed. You can't buy a hat from Hex. All the hats are gone with a big old thing in the way. You can't even see the preacher because all these women got these big old brimmed hats on, big old ornaments on top, flowers and birds all on their head. All these big hats they got on. And you can't even see the service. Everybody got on big hats on. Everybody, you only got one suit. All loud yellow and green suits in church. Looking like a hot mess. Man, we are... This is why y'all sure came. Because we a hot mess, man. That's why Yeshua said in 46, I think it is, we ain't delivered nothing but a fart. With all of our self-righteousness and trying to tell somebody else how they're supposed to live. By keeping this and keeping that and doing this and doing that, we haven't delivered anyone. That's why, hey, I got 53 followers now. I had a new person they had on last week. If you know, he was the last one that signed on to Yahweh for Christians YouTube channel, contact me and I'll get you a free book. I'm telling you, you ain't gonna have too many people. Only a remnant wants the truth. Only a remnant. Only a few people want the truth. I got some more deep stuff to drop on you. That's what happens when you've been around for a little bit. But again, we went to, and I'm telling you, it amazes me. This is why we must be humble when Yahweh was washing the feet. Because I've been humbled on this very feast day. I've been humbled because even though I know all the spiritual ramifications, I've been teaching this for years now about the type and anti-type and how we're not under the blood and stone. I still believe that you're still supposed to have certain symbols in place when keeping these days. And that is not true. So I'm still learning that. Toda Yah, Pastor Williams, Yahushua Ministries. But you don't really have to have this unleavened bread. Now I still do it, and I still have the lamb. But it's just like when I wear my to fill them sometimes. You don't have to do that. But everyone has a unique relationship with Yahweh Shua, intimacy with Him. This is about unleavening on your walk. But just like a man and woman has a black and white law, a husband supposed to be with one wife and a wife with one husband, that's black and white for any husband and wife over the whole world. But what's not in black and white is how they each express their love language to one another. One wife may like chocolates as a treat. Another one wants flowers. One might like to have her feet rubbed. Another might like to have a scalp washed. So either one of you having different ways of interacting with one man and his wife, another man and his wife. They have neither one of them have done anything wrong. You are having an intimate relationship with your wife and how she wants to be treated, how she wants to be loved. That's unique to you and her. That's y'all business. If a brother wants to continue eating unleavened bread during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, that is fine. But what's not fine is not keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread. What's not fine is saying you must have unleavened bread to be saved. That's what the difference is, because salvation comes in your intimate walk with Yahweh Shua. That's why He said, wash your feet. Wash your feet. You're already clean by accepting me and the baptism of the knowledge of me. You just need to have your feet washed. So, yes, I mean, all things are justifiable to me, but not all things are expedient. It's not expedient for me to eat crab cakes and shrimp and hog. If you in righteousness eat ham sandwich, hey, there's no commandment today against it. And I know your jaw dropped some people. I might lose some people now. I went up to 53. I might lose some people now. But it's not about that. Again, why was the goats put on the left and the sheep on the right? It had nothing to do with that. I know that's shocking. This is a whole new world order Yahweh Shua is giving to us. You got brothers weighing 300 pounds eating kosher. Another brother new coming in, he eats shrimp and crabs, and he's fit. Which one is sinning? It is not what's going on in your body that makes you defiled. It's what comes out of your mouth that defiles you. You can eat sinfully so-called kosher food. So you're going to gorge down a whole box of unleavened crackers? Is that what you're going to do? And you think that's righteous? When another brother eats leavened crackers, he eats, a proper amount. It doesn't go to excess. So again, what's in your heart? Is the heart circumcised, Ezekiel said. Cue up number 11, because I'm running out of time.
And they left no children and died. Last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in
That's
the
Luke.
resurrection,
Yeah,
whose
2:19:30.
wife does she become?
No, it should be Luke 5.
For all seven had her as wife.
Yeah, that's the time he got 2:19:30.
Okay.
The sons of this age marry and are given in marriage.
Did you
But
get to
those
get
who
the
are
time?
counted worthy to attain that age and the resurrection from the dead
you
neither
can stop.
marry nor are given in
You
marriage.
stop. So, the narrative is supposed to be Luke 5. So let me go find that. I don't know what happened. I gave it wrong. Remember I told you one of the timestamps was kind of weird?
Okay.
So that's probably the one.
Okay.
About what I was just finished saying, let's go to back this up with the scriptures. All right? Luke 5, 36 to 39. I don't think that most of us understood about the new wine skins and the new wine, the old skins and old wine. In Yahweh Shua's own words, Luke 5, 36 to 39. This is what the brother said. He says, no one puts a piece from a new garment on an old one. Otherwise the new makes a tear. And also the piece that was taken out of the new does not match the old. And no one puts a new wine into old wineskins, or else the new wine will burst the wineskins and be spilled. And the wineskins will be ruined. But now wine must be put into new wineskins, and both are preserved. And no one having drunk old wine immediately desires new, because he says the old is better. With time run out, I'm going to have to rush through. In other words, stop putting an 8-track. You got a brand new 2023 car and you got an 8-track in there. Trying to put an 8-track in there. You got a brand new flat screen TV trying to use a Betamax to look at a movie. Old wine is for old skins, new wine is for new skins. Yahweh Shua is the new wine. And we need to have a new understanding. We are the new skins to receive the new wine. That's what he said. If you read the whole narrative, the two don't mix. So, like I said, now I'm not going to offend my brother. Like I said, I eat kosher. But if I go to another brother's house and he puts before me scrimps, well, I'm not going to judge him and put him down. I'm going to humbly pray over the food like I always do, and I'm going to eat them. Now, I would have done that when I was younger and more immature in my understanding and my walk. But today I know that all things are lawful to me, but not all things are expedient. And that's what Shaul said. Now, let's give a good example of what happened if you going to continue to try to box Yahweh Shua and make him Moses, make him Moshe, blood and stone commandments, and you're going to try to mix in the new stuff and still stay in your old way of thinking. This is what's going to happen to you. Go cue up the last one.
Men and brethren, this scripture had to be fulfilled, which the Holy Spirit spoke before by the mouth of David concerning Judas, who became a guide to those who arrested Jesus. For he was numbered with us and obtained a part in this ministry.
Now this man purchased a field with the wages of iniquity, and falling headlong, he burst open in the middle, and all his entrails gushed out.
Wow, did you hear that? Then the narrative is talking about, this is after they're in the upper room waiting for the next step. The next step is the Ruach HaKodesh coming upon them. And that's going to be the next feast days. They call it Pentecost. Well, we're going to do that when it comes up. That's Peter, so-called Peter, talking about Yehuda, who betrayed Yahweh Shua, and he hung himself on that fig tree that Yahweh Shua cursed a few days before. And his body stank because no one could touch his body because it was during the unleavened bread. So no one could touch it or they'll be defiled. So he hung there for days. For 3 days. And he hung, and then he rotted out in his entrails, all his gut and everything, all his leaven and everything about him burst out. Why? Because he received and believed in Yahweh Shua. He just like the other 11. But he wanted to box him and make him into what he wanted. He wanted the Messiah now to take the kingdom now. So he put in the new wine of Yahweh Shua into his old thinking, the way too many of us are doing now. And what happened, he ended up hanging himself and bursting open like an old wineskin that received the new wine of Yahweh Shua. Don't do that. This is the greatest story ever told. The life, death, resurrection, and return of Yahweh Shua is the greatest story ever told. It's the best thing to talk about, the best thing for your ears to hear, the best thing to live. Next week, we're going to go back to the B'milah series. Pray for the Shalom of Yisrael. Shalom Aleichem. Peace be on you.
Program was paid for by Yahweh for Christians broadcast. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Way Broadcasting or the staff and management of WFBR.